Improve discipline, focus, living outside your comfort zones, and changing the way that you view yourself so that you can take on the challenges that you're currently facing. To be your own mentor. Would you like me to explain how this is done? Head office, I think I'm in the wrong room, I'll try again. Would you like me to explain how this is done? Yes! I like it. So first of all, I need to explain a little bit about the journey. So over the last 10 years, I've trained and coached thousands of people. And for me, it started in the fitness industry working as a personal trainer. And the first couple of years were a real eye-opener for me, because I couldn't believe how much some of my own clients were willing to lie to me. So it would come time for them to, yeah, I can see who can relate. It's come time for them to step onto the scales and to take their measurements, and nothing had changed. And when I'd asked them, they'd say, yeah, followed everything to a T. I honestly don't know what's happened. And they would just play dumb. So at first I get really frustrated with the process, and then after a while I realised there was something a bit more serious going on behind this. So through feedback and conversations, I realised that my clients who weren't getting results were suffering with low self-esteem and a pretty negative self-image. So I began giving these clients things to do at home, homework, to go home and journal their thoughts for the day, to start building self-awareness, and to also text me 3 things that they loved about themselves, or for some of them it was too difficult, so just 3 things that they liked about themselves, and why. And the why is extremely important, because if you're reading a statement that you don't quite believe, it's important to back it up with some kind of evidence, or reasons at least. And over time things start to improve. You know, the more their confidence improved and their self-esteem improved, then the results in the gym also started to improve. But it wasn't just people's self-image that they were struggling with, it was all kinds of problems. Because as a personal trainer, people will open up to you and they will tell you their deepest, darkest secrets, honestly. And it was all kinds of things like loneliness, lack of purpose, lack of fulfillment, lack of drive, unmotivated, stress levels and anxiety levels. So I wanted to help my clients on a deeper level, so I started gaining new skills with all the courses and learning as much as I could to help my clients in all these other areas. Which brings me up to the present day, so now some of my clients include everyone from professional athletes to entrepreneurs. And really that's my goal now, to help people have a lasting transformation. And over the last 2 years I've been working on a concept called the mentors within. So each mentor represents certain skills, behaviours, and a type of mindset. And there are 7 mentors within us. And there are 7 because they cover the most common areas I've witnessed people struggling with over the last 10 years. And I wanted to come up with an idea or a concept that was fun, accessible, and gave a bit more clarity on who we need to become rather than just what we want to achieve. So I'm going to be speaking about 3 of the 7 mentors within this evening, obviously because of time. And those 3 are the drill sergeant, the adrenaline junkie, and the author. So before I go into explaining who they are, I'd just like to share a story with you, or rather a legend from the Cherokee Nation. And it said an old Cherokee is talking to his grandson, and he's explaining that there is a vicious fight going on inside him between 2 wolves. One wolf is evil and represents anger, jealousy, envy, and ego, and the other is good and represents happiness, empathy, faith. And so he talks to his grandson, the grandson thinks about it for a moment and asks, well, which wolf will win? And the old Cherokee simply replies, the one you feed. Now I like this story because there's a lot of similarities with the mentors within. You know, you have to feed them, develop them in order for them to grow. And the first mentor I'm going to be talking about this evening is the drill sergeant. So the drill sergeant represents discipline, sacrifice, consistency, building new habits, and a no excuses type of attitude. And each mentor also comes with a challenge to help you start developing your skills within that area. And the challenge that comes with the drill sergeant is the 66-day challenge. And it's to build new habits. And it's 66 days because the University College of London found that on average it takes 66 days to form a new habit. It's not 21 like a lot of people think, 66 days. So over time I started working with clients and helping them build these new habits over 66 days. But the first time I actually met the drill sergeant was when I was 15 years old. And I'd never met him before because I had very little discipline and lots of excuses. But one day, all that changed when I met my first love, basketball. And I absolutely loved it, I was obsessed. And I wanted to learn everything I could about this amazing game. But instantly I was hitting my first obstacle. See, I grew up in a beautiful area called Llandudno in North Wales. But there was no team and there was no coach. So I had to become resourceful. So I went out and I bought every tape I could find on the best player in the world, Michael Jordon. And I would get home all excited, put one of the tapes in, press play, and I'd watch how he shot the ball, his follow through. And I'd press pause, and I'd look at how he was holding the ball, where his fingers were. And I'd study everything, study how he bounced the ball through his legs and how he dribbled. And I'd study how he played defense, where his hands were, where his feet were. And then I would go outside and I'd apply what I'd been learning. So finally I was taking action. And with me taking action, I was developing this inner drill sergeant within me. And also I was starting to play less and less time playing computer games and more time learning and developing my skills. So I was finally making sacrifices as well, again feeding or developing this inner drill sergeant within me. And over time I started to develop this dream. I wanted to get over to America and play basketball in school over there, because that's where all the best players seem to be. It seemed a million miles away, but I believed I could do it. Then one day a huge piece of the puzzle turned up. A basketball coach moved into the area, a coach by the name of Dave McLean. And he held trials and started a team called Conway Comets. And I was accepted onto the team and we instantly became friends. So now not only did I have this inner drill sergeant who I was developing all the time, but I also had someone who believed in me and someone who believed in my dream. And although he's no longer with us anymore, his commitment to serve others has had a profound impact on my life. So fast forward 4 years, it's now 1999, and I watched as my brother and mother were walking away from me, and my mother had tears in her eyes. That's because she just said goodbye. See, they were dropping me off at Proctor Academy in Boston, New Hampshire. I'd made it. I'd got over to a school and I was about to play for the school team. With the help of my family and my basketball coach and others, I'd got over to America. And by this point now, I'd really developed this inner drill sergeant with developing these skills and behaviours. But one of the biggest changes I noticed was the voice inside my head. I'm sure you all know that voice. It's the one that says, when you're supposed to be watching what you're eating, oh, it's okay, have that slice of cake. Or the one that says, it's okay to cancel that meeting. Or the one that says, oh, you know, you've got this idea, but timing's not quite right, you can wait till next year. Well, now that voice had flipped. So when I was feeling lazy, that voice in my head was saying, no, you need to go and do it. You need to go and train. Be committed. And what the drill sergeant also did was really took me outside my comfort zone levels. Now, speaking of comfort zone levels, it takes me on to the next mentor within, the adrenaline junkie. So the adrenaline junkie really represents living outside your comfort zone and also heading towards adventure, things that scare you, things that you're fearful of. But what it really represents is your ability to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. And it was 2014 I started writing my Live Life list, which is the challenge that comes with the adrenaline junkie. And on this list you would write things that you want to experience, things that you want to achieve, but it's mainly things that take you out of your comfort zone. But this idea for this list didn't just pop into my mind. See, it was inspired by my friend Lee Knowles. See, 4 weeks earlier, before I began writing this list, I had attended his funeral. Now, unfortunately, sometimes in life it takes a tragedy for us to assess our own lives. And that's what I began doing. So after the funeral, I began thinking about his approach and how much he loved surfing and the outdoors and how much he loved life and adventure. And I couldn't remember the last time I had an adventure or the last time I did something that took me out of my comfort zone. Sure, when I was younger, in my basketball days, yeah, all the time, but now it's 2014 and I got comfortable. So I realised I had to write this list. And as I started ticking things off on this list and going through and experiencing different things, something amazing happened. I actually started getting comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. And to give you guys an idea on some of those things, here's me on white collar boxing. Now it's not important who won, even though I did win by TKO in the first round. Shout out to Daz if he's watching, always asking me for a rematch. Or another one, this is me in Lake Windermere, taking part in the Windermere Triathlon. This was the first part. I felt like I'd been at sea for weeks, absolutely dying. Or the next one, this is my first ever solo holiday. So I don't know how you guys feel about going on holiday on your own, but it made me feel really uncomfortable. So I added it to the list. One day decided today's the day and booked a flight the next day over to Tenerife. And this was also my first ever time on a road bike. So my next great idea was to cycle up the mountain, and the mountain is like this. Cycling up towards Mount Teide and an active volcano in Tenerife. So luckily it didn't erupt while I was there. And I also got to see some amazing, breathtaking scenery while I was there as well. And that's what happens when you do these things that take you out of your comfort zone. You're not only growing as a person, that you get to experience lots of different things that are part of life. But as I'm standing here telling you these stories, none of this would have been possible if I hadn't changed my own story and who I believed I was. You see, we all have a story. And those stories that we have can either empower us or they can keep us locked in chains. So which brings me on to the next mentor within, the author. So the author represents knowing your story, empowerment, and also the ability to change your story at any point, to rewrite your story. And I had to really rewrite my own story. And the challenge that comes with the author is to write your sacred soul statement. So this statement is made up of three things: who you want to become, what you want to achieve, and your values. So I had to write out that statement myself because I wanted to get into public speaking way over 10 years ago. But my story was always a version of, I'm not good enough. So I had to read this statement on a daily basis. And then over time I started to change the way that I viewed myself. And I started to take action steps. And then one day I decided to deliver a talk to a handful of people. Then I delivered another one and another one. And now here I am today, delivering one of my dream talks at TedX talk. So you can change. Your story is not set in stone. Let me say that again. Your story is not set in stone. And how do I know that? Because I've changed my own story. And I help other people to change their story on a regular basis. But also people around the world inspire me, and I can see them changing their story. So one of the people around the world is a guy by the name of Voyage. So I don't know if any of you know who he is, but basically he was born with no arms and no legs. So the doctor said to him he'd never go to school, never have an ordinary life, never be able to walk. Well, he does walk, sure not with the legs that we have, but he has his version of walking. And he did go to school, but he was bullied in school. You know, the kids would stare at him, laugh at him, make fun of him. And yet despite all of this, he was able to change his story. And he now skateboards, surfs, skydives. He met the woman of his dreams, got married, and now has a beautiful family. And he goes around the world inspiring others with his message, both adults and children. And do you think any of that would have been possible if he hadn't changed his story? No. So your story is not set in stone. So what I'd like you guys to do now is, if you could close your eyes for me, I'd like to think about something that makes you feel uncomfortable, or something that you're fearful of. Maybe it's something you've been putting off and you know you need to be taking action. And then I want you to think about what are the reasons or the justifications that you tell yourself for not taking action. And now think about what your story could be. If, like me, maybe it's a version of, I'm not good enough. Or maybe it's something else. Feel free to open your eyes. And that's just a small exercise. You feel free to spend more time at home. But that's what this is all about. It's building self-awareness and getting to know yourself and who you are. So now I'd like to set some challenges for you guys. I'd like to think about which mentor within you related to the most. So if it's the drill sergeant and you have a specific goal that you're currently working towards, I'd like you to think about a habit that will take you closer to that goal. And you're going to set a 66-day challenge to stick to this habit for. Let me see a show of hands. Who's going to accept this challenge? Woo! Yes! I like it. Brilliant. You can look forward to building a new habit. And once you've done it once, you can do it 2, 3, 4 times. And then that really has the power to transform your life. Or if you related more to the adrenaline junkie and you feel like you're stuck in your comfort zone, you want to start feeling comfortable with being uncomfortable, moving towards those things that scare you and you're fearful of, then I'd like to go home and write your live life list. And on this list, I'd like to write 10 things that take you out of your comfort zone. And next to each one, a completion date of when you'll finish this by. Who's going to accept this challenge?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So you guys can look forward to experiencing growth in many different areas. Or if you feel that you related more to the author and you feel that you need to work on your self-image and you want to experience a bit more with confidence levels, then your challenge is to go home and write your sacred soul statement. So remember, it's a mixture of who you want to become, what you want to achieve, and your values. And you will also read this statement on a daily basis for 66 days. Who's going to accept this challenge? Fantastic. So you can look forward to changing the way that you view yourself and taking on more challenges in your life. So guys, remember, your story is not set in stone. I hope that this has given you just a little insight into the opportunity that we all have to tap into these inner mentors within us. And just before I go, I'd like to ask one last request of you. So this evening when you go home and the sun fades and you're lying in bed and you're just about to close your eyes, I'd like to ask yourselves a question. Who have I been feeding?